Well, it's still getting messier and messier in the It Ends With Us feud between co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
I said that having read through Blake Lively's complaint, that it was evident to me that she was likely under the influence when she filed her complaint.
Let's set the stage for what might just be one of the most jaw-dropping, popcorn-worthy Hollywood scandals in recent memory. Picture this. It's February 2025, and the air is buzzing with anticipation as Saturday Night Live celebrates its 50th anniversary, a monumental milestone for a show that's been at the heart of comedy for decades. The guest list is packed with A-listers, legends, and industry heavyweights, all gathered to bask in the glow of nostalgia and laughter. But oh, how the night took a turn. The spotlight wasn't just on comedy. Oh no, it turned into a battlefield, and at the center of the carnage stood Hollywood's once beloved power couple, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively.
You're not kidding when you say this is getting messier. The author of that book deleting her Instagram account, another who plays Baldoni's sister in the film, being harassed online.
Now, if you thought this was going to be a feel-good laugh until you cry kind of special, think again. This was not a celebration of 5 decades of sketch comedy. Nope, this was a public roast, a takedown, a spectacle that left jaws on the floor and reputations in shambles. And the audience, well, they weren't just laughing with the jokes. Many were laughing at the couple who, until recently, seemed untouchable. You could almost smell the schadenfreude in the room.
They believe that it's a continuation of the smear campaign that Blake initially claims happened while they were promoting the film.
Let's rewind for a second because this wasn't just a random night for Reynolds and Lively to show up at Studio 8th. They weren't there as hosts, nor were they there to promote anything in particular. In fact, this marked their first public appearance together since their very public and very messy legal debacle with Justin Baldoni had turned them into tabloid fodder. You'd think they would have played it safe, maybe stuck to charity events or quiet date nights, far from the glare of cameras. But no, these two decided to strut into SNL studio as if they still had the SNL's studio, as if they still had the golden glow of Hollywood royalty. Spoiler alert, they didn't.
It's creepy Baldoni. Getting close to her, obviously making small chatter not in character so as not to make the scene, which didn't require dialogue, awkward.
The lawsuit, for those who somehow missed the nonstop headlines, had already dragged their names through the mud. We're talking allegations, countersuits, PR stunts gone wrong, and a $400 million legal nightmare that had everyone in the industry whispering. And yet, despite the world collectively cringing at their every move, Ryan and Blake walked into that studio with their heads held high, seemingly unaware, or perhaps just unwilling to admit, that the tide had turned against them.
Literally, I'm just asking the question, like, how are women allowed to do this, to take something and to make it sound like you survived, because that's what it sounded like to the public.
And then came Colin Jost. Oh, Colin, the man who quietly sits behind the Weekend Update desk delivering punchlines like precision strikes. But this time, he didn't just deliver a punchline, he dropped a bomb. For context, Colin Jost is not just some comedian here. He's Scarlett Johansson's husband. Yes, Scarlett, as in Ryan Reynolds' ex-wife. You see where this is going, right? The layers here are as juicy as an overripe peach. If there was ever a person primed to take a shot at Ryan and Blake, it was Colin. And boy, did he deliver. Imagine the scene. The cameras are rolling, the audience is buzzing, and Colin Jost, with that signature smirk of his, casually drops what might go down as one of the most savage lines in SNL history. He compared a disgraced political figure's delusional optimism about salvaging a relationship to, wait for it, Justin Baldoni saying he'd love to work with Blake Lively again. The room froze. For a split second, there was silence, a collective intake of breath as the audience processed the sheer audacity of the joke. And then nervous laughter erupted, the kind that comes when people don't know whether to laugh or just stare in stunned disbelief.
Who else? Who else has a question?
I have a question.
Oh, hey, Ryan Reynolds.
Hi.
Hey. Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
Blake Lively's reaction, priceless. She didn't even try to mask her fury. Sitting there flanked by her husband, she turned to Ryan with a glare so sharp it could have cut through steel. Because here's the kicker. The joke wasn't just about Baldoni. It wasn't even really about Ryan. It was about her. It was about Blake Lively, the woman who'd spent the past year trying to spin herself as a victim, a feminist icon wronged by a toxic Hollywood system. And yet, in that moment, Colin Jost's joke laid bare what everyone in the room, and let's be honest, probably all of Hollywood, was already thinking. The narrative she'd worked so hard to control was crumbling
Yeah, okay. Well, my question is that, you know that the materials that they made the cone heads with, are those edible?
Edible? No. And based on them being made in 1975, I'd assume that they're highly toxic.
Oh, okay. So if somebody, hypothetically took a couple of nibbles backstage and, got excited, should they go to the hospital or should they?
Yes, they should go to the hospital right away.
Good.
Good luck.
Now, Ryan Reynolds, being Ryan Reynolds, tried to play it cool. You know, that trademark smirk, the Deadpool-esque wink at the audience, as if to say, I'm in on the joke, but here's the thing, Body was buying it, not the audience, not the celebrities in the room, and certainly not Blake. Because the truth is, Ryan's attempt at humor earlier in the night had already set the stage for disaster. When asked by Tina Fey and Amy Poehler how things were going, he could have just smiled, nodded, and moved on. Instead, he quipped, "Great! Why? What have you heard?" Cue the awkward silence, the forced laughter, and the palpable wave of secondhand embarrassment that rippled through the studio. Even Steven Spielberg, who was sitting just a few seats away, reportedly shifted uncomfortably in his chair. And Amy Poehler, she gave one of those blink and you'll miss it winces that spoke volumes. Because here's the thing, Ryan's joke wasn't just a joke. It was a reminder of the lawsuit, the allegations, the drama that had turned these two from Hollywood's golden couple to walking punchlines. The fact that he thought he could charm his way out of it, that he could Deadpool his way through a room full of people who were paid to read between the lines, was nothing short of delusional.
Like, he literally tells Ryan he wants to be friends with you. And I can just see Ryan sitting there like, yes, this is exactly what I want, a puppy to kick in the mouth. And you'll do what I say.
And let's not forget the audience. This wasn't your average Saturday night crowd. This was an anniversary special, which meant the room was packed with Hollywood insiders. The very people who'd spent the past year watching Ryan and Blake's reputations implode. These weren't fans looking for a laugh. These were industry veterans who knew exactly what was going on and, more importantly, were ready to judge. So when Colin Jost delivered that joke, it wasn't just a punchline. It was a signal that Hollywood was done pretending, done playing along with the polished facade that Ryan and Blake had spent years carefully crafting. But wait, it gets better or worse, depending on whose side you're on. Because while Ryan was out there trying and failing to be the charming, self-deprecating, funny guy, SNL had something even more brutal lined up for Blake. Colin's joke wasn't just a jab. It was a calculated strike. The delivery, the timing, the way it zeroed in on her specifically, it wasn't just comedy. It was Hollywood's equivalent of a mic drop. And the audience. They knew it. That split-second hesitation before the laughter. That wasn't confusion. That was everyone in the room processing the sheer brutality of what they'd just witnessed. Even Colin himself couldn't hide the smirk on his face as he delivered the line. He knew exactly what he'd done, and so did the audience.
Lively's team has denied all of these allegations. They have responded to this filing, this lawsuit.
And that, right there, was the moment the smokescreen shattered. For years, Ryan and Blake had managed to sell the world of fantasy. They were the perfect couple, the Instagram darlings, the relatable celebrities who weren't afraid to poke fun at themselves. But on that stage, on that night, the truth came out. The cracks in their image weren't just showing, they were gaping. And Hollywood loves a good downfall. So what does this all mean? Was Colin Jost's joke the final nail in the coffin for Ryan and Blake's reputations? Or was it just the beginning of an even bigger unraveling? Let's dive deeper into the aftermath and see how this one night sparked a chain reaction that turned Hollywood's golden couple into its biggest cautionary tale. Because trust us, the story doesn't end here.
And he says, like, look, this is just, Hollywood is based on pure fear, cultivated by both of them and their very powerful friends in entertainment.
Now, let's talk about the fallout, because when Hollywood smells blood in the water, it doesn't just dip its toes in, it dives headfirst. The SNL 50th anniversary wasn't just a bad night for Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. It was the catalyst that set off a chain reaction, one that would unravel everything they'd spent years carefully building. The aftermath of that fateful night didn't just expose the cracks in their image. It triggered an avalanche that not even the best crisis PR money could buy could stop. Let's start with the industry's reaction, because if there's one thing Hollywood hates, it's being made to look foolish. Ryan and Blake had spent years cultivating a brand that was equal parts charm and relatability. They were the couple you wanted to be friends with, the ones you could imagine having brunch with while trading jokes about parenting and movie sets. But after that SNL appearance, it became clear that the industry had grown tired of the act. The once beloved stars were now seen as liabilities in Hollywood. Ever the fickle beast began to distance itself.
Right.
Use this tool of a lawsuit or whatever to get it into the public atmosphere, and now you're not going to allow me the chance to respond in the same avenue?
Studios, which had once lined up to work with Ryan, were now quietly reevaluating the partnerships. His upcoming projects suddenly seemed less like surefire hits and more like potential risks. and Blake. Her reputation for being difficult to work with, a rumor that had always lingered on the edges of her career, was now front and center. Crew members from past productions began to come forward with stories that painted a very different picture of the actress. No eye contact on set, check. A diva attitude that made even seasoned professionals roll their eyes, double check. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't about a talented actress standing up for herself. It was about someone who had let fame go to her head. And let's not forget the press. Oh, the press. If you think journalists were going to let this story go, you clearly don't know how the media works. The headlines practically wrote themselves. Hollywood's golden couple tarnished Ryan and Blake's fall from grace. SNL roasts the Reynolds' lively empire. Every news outlet, from gossip blogs to major publications, had a take, and none of them were flattering. Even outlets that had once been friendly to the couple were now piling on, eager to capitalize on the spectacle. After all, nothing sells like a good scandal.
Also provided a cease and desist letter, asking them to cease, quote, all unlawful conduct, namely what they alleged is the, quote, harassing and retaliatory media and online campaign against Miss Lively.
But here's where things get really interesting. The public wasn't just eating this up. They were participating. Social media lit up with memes, think pieces, and threads dissecting every moment of that SNL episode. Clips of Colin Jost's joke went viral within hours, with fans and detractors alike weighing in on what it all meant. Some people defended Blake, arguing that the joke was unfair and crossed the line. Others took it as proof that she'd finally been exposed for who she really was. And Ryan, well, let's just say the internet had no shortage of opinions about his decision to use humor as a shield, especially after his previous PR disasters.
Look at this scene that was captured on tape. You'll see there's nothing nefarious going on. She says this actually proves her point. There's an argument that she is hiding her discomfort with what he's saying and doing, and she's just trying to finish the scene like any kind of professional. Which way you take it, which way you perceive it, again, that'll be up to a jury or the fact finder.
Speaking of PR disasters, we need to talk about Ryan's past behavior, because this isn't the first time his attempts at being funny have backfired. Remember the whole Deadpool fiasco? The one where he used his character to take digs at Justin Baldoni, the very man who's now suing him and Blake for hundreds of millions. Yeah, that didn't exactly win him any fans. In fact, it only added fuel to the fire, making it clear that Ryan had a habit of using humor as a weapon. Except this time, it wasn't just his career on the line, it was Blake's too. And let's be real, Blake had her own set of issues to deal with. For someone who had spent years crafting a public image as a feminist icon and a champion for women, the backlash she faced was particularly brutal. Critics accused her of weaponizing her narrative to gain sympathy, pointing to the way she'd framed her legal battle with Baldoni as proof. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Here was someone who had built her career on being relatable and down to earth, now accused of being manipulative and out of touch. And the worst part, the evidence was piling up.
And that also, they say, includes us responding in the public to the montage dancing video that we put out. Why? Because, quote, the Lively Party's counsel publicly described the contents of video footage relating to Miss Lively's allegations as damning. Their statement continued, any woman who's been inappropriately touched in the workplace will recognize Miss Lively's discomfort.
Take the Kirsty Flahavan interview, for instance. What should have been a harmless press moment turned into a viral disaster when Blake's offhand comment about pregnancy was revealed to be not just tone-deaf, but downright cruel. It was the kind of misstep that might have been forgivable if it weren't for the broader context of her legal battle and the stories coming out about her behavior on set. Suddenly, every little thing she said or did was under a microscope, and the public wasn't feeling generous. And then there were the rumors. Oh, the rumors. Industry insiders began whispering about secret meetings, power plays, and manipulative tactics that painted a very different picture of Blake and Ryan. Reports surfaced about a meeting in March 2024 where Ryan allegedly pressured Sony executives to remove Justin Baldoni from his own film. The idea that Blake had stolen the project wasn't just a narrative. It was now being backed up by reports and leaked emails. And Ryan's role in all of this. Far from being the supportive husband, he was described as aggressive and controlling, someone who wasn't afraid to throw his weight around to get what he wanted.
But this is such a interpretation of perspective, because I watched the footage, as I'm sure we all have, and, you know, it's very easy to argue.
It didn't help that Taylor Swift, one of Blake's most high-profile friends, had been dragged into the drama. The alleged text messages from Blake, referring to Taylor and Ryan as her dragons, only added to the spectacle. The fact that Taylor was now being subpoenaed to testify under oath in a legal battle was the cherry on top of an already messy situation. And while Taylor has remained tight-lipped publicly, insiders claim she's less than thrilled about being caught in the crossfire. The once close friendship between the two women now seems strained, with rumors swirling that Taylor feels used by Blake.
I think this was a very dicey move because I think this very much opens up interpretation to what Blake Lively is saying was uncomfortable, and the key word here, unwelcomed.
Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni was quietly winning the public relations war. By positioning himself as the underdog, the filmmaker managed to flip the narrative in his favor. His counterclaims against Blake and Ryan painted a picture of a couple who'd stopped at nothing to destroy his career, and the receipts he provided were damning. Text messages, meeting notes, and first-hand accounts from crew members all pointed to a coordinated effort to push him out of the project. And while the legal battle is far from over, the court of public opinion seems to be leaning in his favor. So where does this leave Ryan and Blake? Well, for starters, their careers are in serious jeopardy. Ryan's once flawless image as Hollywood's funny man has taken a hit, and his upcoming projects are now under a cloud of uncertainty. Blake, meanwhile, is facing an uphill battle to salvage her reputation. Her attempts at damage control, whether through carefully crafted Instagram posts or selective media appearances, feel increasingly desperate, and the public isn't buying it. Even their inner circle seems to be shrinking. Friends and collaborators who once sang their praises are now keeping their distance, unwilling to get caught up in the drama. And while Ryan and Blake have always seemed like a united front, insiders claim the stress of the lawsuits and the public backlash is taking its toll on their relationship. Whether they can weather this storm together remains to be seen, but one thing is clear. The days of them being Hollywood's golden couple are long gone.
Shutting down a woman's claims.
She is claiming that they're harassment. He's saying none of it is true, never happened, never did.
As for their future in the industry, it's hard to say. Hollywood loves a redemption arc, but it's going to take a lot more than a few heartfelt interviews and public apologies to turn this ship around. The legal battle with Baldoni is far from over, and the longer it drags on, the more damaging it becomes for everyone involved. But if there's one thing we've learned from this whole saga, it's that, in Hollywood, nothing stays hidden for long. The truth has a funny way of coming out, and when it does, the fallout is spectacular. So, what do you think? Can Ryan and Blake make a comeback, or is this the beginning of the end for their Hollywood reign? And more importantly, how will the industry respond to this scandal in the long run? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more updates on the juiciest celebrity dramas. Until next time, stay tuned.